Okay. I'd like to call to order the meeting of the Miamisburg City School Board for August 20th, 2020. Would everyone please rise for the pledge?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Mr. Amsler,
Here.
Mrs. Angel,
Here.
Mr. Lewis,
Here.
Mrs. Niess,
Here.
Mr. Toadvine,
Present.
Dr. Blessing,
Present.
Mr. Homan.
Here.
I'm present as well.
Okay, everyone's here. Next, we need a motion to adopt the agenda.
I move that we adopt the agenda.
I second it.
Okay, we had a first from Mr. Amsler, second from Mrs. Niess. Any discussion on the agenda?
No, sir.
Mrs. Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Toadvine,
Yes.
Mr. Amsler,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mrs. Niess.
Yes.
Okay, the agenda has been adopted. Next is the approval of the minutes. Approval of minutes for the regular board meeting held on July 18th of 2020 and 16th, okay, and special board meeting held on August 5th, 2020 and August 19th of 2020.
I move for the approval of the minutes for the regular board meeting held on July 16th, 2020, and the special board meetings held on August 5th, 2020, and August 19th, 2020.
A second.
First from Ms. Niess, second from Mr. Lewis. Roll call, please.
Mr. Toadvine,
Yes.
Mrs. Niess,
Yes.
Mr. Amsler,
Yes.
Mrs. Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Okay. Next, we're looking at the financial report. It is recommended that we approve the financial report dated July 31st of 2020. Motion.
I'll move to for the approval of the financial report, July 31st, 2020.
Second.
Okay, we had a first from Mr. Lewis, second from Mrs. Angel.
Not much to report other than this was the first month of our new fiscal year. It was a little crazy. I'm still trying to get a hold on our cash flow considering dates have been moved and deadlines extended. But we did pretty good as well as to be expected. Got a little less tax money in July than we typically get, but I hope to catch that up in August or September. So looking good so far.
Okay, any questions, discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Amsler,
Yes.
Mr. Toadvine,
Yes.
Mrs. Angel,
Yes.
Mrs. Niess.
Yes.
Okay, so the financial report has passed.
Thank you.
Okay. It's recommended that the Board of Education waive the first reading of the following board policies. Non-discrimination, non-discrimination on the basis of sex, sexual harassment grievance process, use of face coverings, suspension and termination of professional staff members, suspension and demotion and termination of support staff members, student absences, permanent exclusion, hazing and bullying, harassment, intimidation, and dating violence, hazing and bullying, harassment, intimidation, and dating violence, student discipline, student suspension, emergency removal of a student, student expulsion, public complaints about district personnel, in public complaints about district personnel.
I move we approve the waive first reading of those preceding board policies.
Second.
Okay, so we had a first from Mrs. Angel, second from Mr. Amsler. Any questions about
Yeah,
this?
I did have, I just wanted to ask about the suspension and expulsion. I mean, I knew that was a new law. As we reduce and we eventually eliminate expulsions and suspensions, I know we had to start doing that in 2019-20. What kind of supports do we have for the students in lieu of that?
Are you talking about just grades K through 3 or all grades?
All grades,
Okay.
yeah.
So what's within this, the ones that they're waiving tonight in terms of this deal with the Title IX, being able to, we have to match the language that legislature passed to be in compliance within the Title IX. In terms of reducing those numbers at K3 and even 412, remember those are the parts of the SEL components that we have going on. Also your PBIS teams within the building, to reduce those and to put those supports into place for that.
Okay.
And your building principals track that data on a regular basis as well.
Okay.
And then they run those through their building leadership teams to look at those.
So, I hate to ask this. So if we have an unruly student, goes through the PBIS, right? Comes back still unruly, where do we go?
Well, remember, nothing says you still can't suspend students and go through the process of doing that. It's to put interventions in place prior to, for example, alternative placement settings and things like that.
Okay.
But the idea behind your PBIS is to reduce that and to have common language within buildings to follow rules, process, procedures, and built within those stages are interventions that are built in from
Right.
within the building.
So, but eventually in 2021-22, they will have some sort of setting to be in at the school,
Right.
if needed, that will be supportive.
Correct. Each
Okay.
year you keep building to meet those needs and to meet the requirements of the law for that. And then a couple of the double ones in here where Dale reads them twice. The second one is a reg that actually goes through the process for that. So, but most of these are all the Title IX that have to be adopted, and most of them was just the same little, about 3 sentences that had to be put in each of those. So,
Okay, thank you.
Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Amsler,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Toadvine,
Yes.
Mrs. Niess.
Yes.
Okay. Next, it is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following revised board policies, which I have already read. And if I could have a motion. Motion to approve, please.
I move for the approval of the adoption, revision of the board policies.
Second.
Okay, we had a first from Ms. Niess, second from Mrs. Angel. And we already discussed this basically, so I assume there's no more discussion. Is that okay with you, Mr. Amsler?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Toadvine,
Yes.
Mrs. Niess,
Yes.
Mr. Amsler,
Yes.
Mrs. Angel.
Yes.
Okay, so that is passed. We're moving on to the consent agenda. We have items A through D. Item A is Section 3317.08 of the Ohio Revised Code provides a formula whereby the annual tuition rate shall be calculated. The in-state tuition rate for the Miamisburg City School District for the 2020-21 school year is $7,000.20. It is an increase of $119.81. Any discussion with this one before I move on?
This is a rate that's calculated by ODE each year, and they provide the letters, and, you know, we always include the Ohio Revised Code for the board, but it's determined by ODE, and we just go along with it.
Okay, thank you. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the revision of classroom fees, grades 9 through 12, for the 2021 school year as follows. Schools PLP, $30. Schools PLP AP courses, $50, plus the cost of the exam. Any questions? Nope. Okay. The Miamisburg City School District Board of Education authorizes the Director of Business in consultation with the Treasurer CFO to negotiate the terms of an agreement with the TKDS Sports Network for streaming services for certain athletic contests during the 2021 school year. Such agreement shall be on terms favorable to the board and subject to ratification by the board.
Since we didn't have an MOU or completed contract that was completed and ready to go for board ratification, we wanted to get this on the agenda so you could give Scott and I, Mr. Gilbert and I, the authority to move forward with the negotiations. And as we get something that makes sense and protects everyone involved, then we will put it on the next board agenda for approval. We just wanted to sort of move it along so that we could make sure we get it in place as quickly as possible, because as we noted last night, many of our parents and community members want to see those events streaming. So we're just trying to move it along and keep it moving and get it in place as quickly as possible.
Right, and thank you for mentioning that last night, because, you know, we have discussed it, and I think that it was pretty favorable by everyone the way it sounded, so.
Just ironing out all the you shall, you shouldn't, and, you know, all of the legal jargon that needs to be in there for all of us, so.
Yeah.
And also provide all of our families and even extended families the ability to view sports
Right.
safely, either because of safety issues or limited spectators due to the governor's orders. So I think we're being very reasonable. Jason promoted, they decided on $60 for an entire fall sports season. And if you just wanted a 7-day pass, it's $20. And that's very inexpensive compared to some schools around us and what they're charging their families and extended families to view those.
Yeah, I wanted to take a second to thank Jason Osborne and Jason Shade for really getting ahead of this and really pushing hard to get this going, because I know that the last time I talked to them, well, yesterday morning, they didn't have the MOU or anything like that. And so glad they pressed to get that started. Be a nice service for our community.
Well, I know that there's a lot of people that are disappointed that, you know, COVID's not only affecting the young people's lives when it comes to sports, but a lot of the older people in the community that have been calling and asking us about reserve seats and all that, because we have a lot of support for our athletes and our band people, you know, and all you got to do is be at a Friday night football game and sell people in the stands, and after the game, when the band's performing, sell the people still in the stands, you know, so there's a lot of support there. Okay. I know. I don't want to do this. Okay, the superintendent, treasurer, CFO, and the director of business recommend that the Board of Education approve the attached memorandum of understanding, MOU, with the Teamsters, general truck drivers, chauffeurs, warehousemen, and helpers for the local union number 957. Do I have a motion?
I move we approve the consent agenda items A through D.
I'll second.
Okay, we have first from Mrs. Angel, a second from Mr. Amsler, and Ms. Hagman.
I don't know. Do you want to take this one, Steve, or you want me to? Well,
Both of you.
over the summer we had an opportunity to work with the Teamsters to relocate some people that, because we had some people that were out and we had some needs in different buildings. And so we did this MOU with the Teamsters to allow us to do that over the summer to meet the needs of the buildings. So we were really appreciative of that, and we just need the board's approval.
Okay, thank you. Any questions about anything? Nope. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Amsler,
Yes.
Mrs. Niess,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Toadvine.
Yes. Okay, and that is passed. Moving on to the Human Resources agenda items. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following resolution. Whereas the following extracurricular positions have been offered to those employees of the district and are licensed individuals, and no such employee qualified to fill the position has accepted it, and whereas the school district has then advertised the position as available to any licensed individual who is qualified to fill it and who is not employed by the board, and no such person has applied for and accepted the position. Now therefore, be it resolved that under the provision of the Ohio Revised Code 3313.53, the following positions are declared available to non-certificated persons who meet the standards adopted by the state board and may be filled for a period of not more than one school year at the same salary wage offered to a certificated persons for the pupil activity program as indicated. Cheer head coach, split $4,234.10. Cheer middle school coach, split $1,086.83. Cross country assistant coach, $1,852.52. Varsity football assistant, $5,549.40. Seventh grade assistant coach, $2,608.38. Eighth grade football head coach, $3,146.85. Football eighth grade assistant coach, $2,470.02. Fall guard head director, $4,981.30. Varsity boys assistant coach, $3,821.18. Boys junior varsity coach, $3,947.15. Soccer girls junior varsity coach, $3,695.21. Tennis JV B coach, $2,470.02. Volleyball varsity assistant coach, $4,395.01. Volleyball JV B ninth grade coach, $3,043.11. Do I have a motion?
I move for the approval of resolution for personnel classified and extracurricular employment.
Second.
Get a first from Mr. Ambler, second from Mr. Lewis. Any questions?
Mr. Toadvine,
Yes.
Mrs. Angel,
Yes.
Mrs. Niess,
Yes.
Mr. Amsler,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Okay, and that is passed. Okay, next we're looking at the recommended that the Board of Education approve the following personnel reports. And it is for the certificated and the classified. Do I have a motion?
You need to read that.
Same thing I just read, isn't it?
Oh,
No.
maybe.
No,
I make a motion,
you're-
we
you're right.
approve personnel reports.
Okay.
I second it.
Got a first from Miss Angel, second from Miss Niess. Questions?
Mr. Amsler,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes?
Mr. Toadvine,
Yes.
Mrs. Niess,
Yes.
Mrs. Angel.
Yes.
Okay. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the following personnel reports, supplementary, or supplemental stipend, both certificated and classified. Employment in the Miamisburg City School District, and I'm sorry, Mrs. Angel, you're right, is contingent upon the candidate submitting to and passing a BCII and an FBI criminal background check in accordance with the Ohio Revised Code and the pre-employment drug screening in accordance with the adopted board policies. Motion.
I move for approval of the personnel report supplemental stipend.
Second.
Okay. But at first from Mrs. Angel, second from Mr. Amsler. Questions? Nothing tonight? Okay.
I do have a question, Steve. Have we filled all of our positions now?
Yes.
You had to think about that.
The last one was our high school Spanish, and we got that on the agenda at 3 o'clock today, so
Okay,
it's on the agenda now, so.
Good.
thank you.
Good. Good. Good for you.
And good for our
Uh,
students when they come
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. Roll call.
Mrs. Niess,
Yes.
Mr. Toadvine,
Yes.
Mr. Amsler,
Abstain.
Mrs. Angel,
Yes,
Mr. Lewis.
Yes?
Okay. That item is passed. Item D. It is recommended by the superintendent to approve the following administrators to be OTES evaluators. Michael Black, Laura Blessing, Sarah Busick, Amy Dodson, Adam Frank, Dale Geyer, Teresa Greenlee, Steve Homan, Rebecca Huber, Nicole Johnson, Kelly Lee Marker, Eric Linsky, Brittany Lipinski, Katie Lucas, Summer Mastronardi, Hallie Moore, Stacy Moore, Robert Neubauer, Shannon Rupert, Jeremy Saylor, Tammy Sunderman, Kelly Thomas, Susan Woods. Do I have a motion?
I move, go ahead.
No, go right ahead.
I move for the approval of the Ohio Teacher Evaluation System, the OTES evaluators.
I'll second.
Okay, we had a first from Mrs. Niess, second from Mr. Lewis. Dr. Blessing? Yeah. Want to say anything? Steve?
I was just gonna say, this is the typical August lineup of people that need to be evaluated. And you'll see one next for the principals and then one for the counselors. And Ohio law requires the board to approve them each year, so.
and I just want to thank you, Dr. Blessing, for stepping in and being willing to do this. I don't think a lot of superintendents in Ohio do it, so
Sure.
thank you.
You're very welcome.
Okay, could I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Lewis,
Yes?
Mr. Toadvine,
Yes.
Mrs. Niess,
Yes.
Mr. Amsler,
Yes.
Mrs. Angel.
Yes,
Okay, so that item has passed. Next is it is recommended by the superintendent to approve the following administrators to be OPES evaluators. And that is for the Ohio principals. Michael Black, Laura Blessing, Steve Homan, and Kelly Thomas. Do I have a motion?
I move for the approval of Ohio Principal Evaluation System, OPES evaluators.
second,
Okay, so we had a first from Mr. Lewis, second from Mrs. Angel. It's the same thing as the teachers, except it's for the administrators. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Angel,
yes,
Mr. Amsler,
Yes.
Mr. Toadvine,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mrs. Niess.
Yes.
Okay, and that is passed. It's recommended by the superintendent to approve the following administrators to be OCES evaluators: Amy Dobson, Adam Frank, Dale Geyer, Teresa Greenlee, Steve Homan, Katie Lucas, Kelly Lee Marker, Summer Mastronardi, Stacy Moore, Shannon Rupert, Tammy Sunderman, and Kelly Thomas. I have a motion.
I move for the approval of the Ohio Counselor Evaluation System OCES evaluators.
Second.
Roll call.
Mrs. Niess,
Yes.
Mrs. Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Amsler,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Toadvine.
Yes. That item is passed.
Dale, on the only question I would have in regards to the evaluation center, evaluation question in general would be, is if for some reason our plan as we move forward to keep the schools open, if that would change, how does that affect our evaluation system in regards to that? I'm assuming there is obviously a change to that.
We would have to sit down with MCTA and talk about that. That was one of the components that we had talked about in the spring in terms of that.
Right.
We will have to have some discussion as well too, because with our online teachers as well, that's a different component than what we would normally have. So that's actually on our agenda coming up with our first LMC with MCTA to work through that. And we already had talked in the spring last year to talk about if we did go remote, how would evaluations look for that?
Yeah. Okay.
So
All right.
I know the state relaxed that at the end of last year, but if I was a betting person, that would not happen this year because of them already bringing up having
Even-
plans into place. So.
Even though they've got across the state, they've got different school districts going in different directions in regards to
Yeah.
remote, to hybrid, to
My guess would be
full.
you'd have to negotiate that. We have to go back and do an MOU with MCTA to find out the best way to evaluate the teachers for that. So
Okay, thanks.
Be a lot of people working on it, won't there? Everywhere. Not just in Ohio either. Okay. Roll call?
We
Did
did.
I
I'm
do it?
sorry.
Did I do it already?
That's right, because
Yeah.
come in at the rear end of that, didn't
You're
you?
just keeping me on my
There
toes,
you go.
Mr. Toadvine.
Yeah, I wish. Okay.
G.
That's like college. Superintendent, Director of Student Services, and the Treasurer and CFO recommend that the Miamisburg City School District and Board of Education approve a salary of $24,000 per school year for the psychology intern using a state grant to cover all salaries and benefit costs. Motion?
I move for the approval of the psychology intern salary for 2020-21 school year.
I'll second.
First from Mrs. Neese, second from Mr. Lewis.
A couple months ago, I don't know, they're all starting to run together, but I think it was in May or June that we approved the teacher's minimum salary schedule and the hiring of a psychology intern, which we do every year. They finally raised the teacher's minimum salary schedule that was in the Ohio Revised Code, which is good news, but it was bad news in regards to this grant because then we didn't have enough money to pay them. So we're giving them more than the previous minimum, but less than the current minimum in order to make it work with the grant. So we just need the board to approve a new annual salary for them so that we can make sure that it's covered by the grants, including their benefits.
So the grant is covering it all?
Yes,
We just have to, it's
Right.
paperwork.
right. I mean, it was a much needed increase to the teacher's minimum salary schedule, but it raised it to 31,000 and the total grant's only 28,000. So we wanted to make sure we had enough to cover all the salary and benefits that would be included, so,
And it's lovely that we can get an intern.
right, right.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Toadvine,
Yes.
Mrs. Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Amsler,
Yes.
Mrs. Neess.
Yes.
Okay, that item is passed. Say H. O-H-I. It is recommended by the superintendent that the Miamisburg City Schools approve a revised speech pathologist intern agreement with the New York University for the 2021 school year. Do I have a motion?
I'll move for the approval of the revised speech pathologist intern agreement.
I'll second it.
Okay, so we had a first from Mr. Lewis, second from Mrs. Neess. Mr. Hellman?
This is a revision from last month. We wanted to put another clause in there. We both looked over it when it was put on. There was a paragraph missing about both parties being able to end the contract at any time if there were issues. So we added that, which is its standard language within there. So that's what the revision is.
Yep, that's kind of important. Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Neess,
Yes.
Mr. Toadvine,
Yes.
Mrs. Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Amsler.
Yes.
Okay, that item's passed. Next, we're going to Section 5, Agreements and Contracts. It is recommended by the superintendent and the treasurer CFO that the Board of Education approve this settlement agreement between the Miamisburg City School District Board of Education and David H. Elliott Company Incorporated.
I move that we approve the settlement agreement between Miamisburg City School and David H. Elliott Company.
First, Mrs. Angel.
Second.
Second, Mr. Amsler. Mrs. Hagman.
Sorry? Okay. As you know, we've been working on complaints filed and filing our own complaints for sales that were above what the auditor had on the tax rolls. This is one of those counter complaints that we filed, so we're just settling, so that we can keep the tax base in place that we have. So we need the board to agree to 1-year tax settlement of $11,000.
Questions? No. Okay.
It was one of the few things like this I read through that actually made sense to me.
Well, I'm glad. Because sometimes I have to read through them twice. So, so ready?
Let her roll.
All right. Mr. Toadvine,
Yes.
Mrs. Neess,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mrs. Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Amsler.
Yes.
Okay. Next, item B. Is recommended by the superintendent and the treasurer CFO and the Board of Education to approve this settlement agreement between the Miamisburg City School District Board of Education and the Dayton Hotel Suites. I have a motion.
I move for the approval of settlement agreement between the Miamisburg City School District Board of Education and the Dayton Hotel Suites.
I second it.
So we have a first from Mr. Ambler, second from Mrs. Neess. Sagman.
Can I say ditto?
Ditto. I'll go for the ditto.
It's the same
Mrs.
as the
Angel loves
first
dittos.
one. Yeah.
I like
So this is the another agreement with Dayton Hotel Suites to settle, so we can get a direct payment of $11,000. Ends up being the same amount too.
Wow. We'll take it. Okay. Any questions?
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mrs. Neess,
Yes.
Mr. Toadvine,
Yes.
Mr. Amsler,
Yes.
Mrs. Angel.
Yes.
Okay. Item B has passed. It is recommended by the superintendent and treasurer and CFO that the Board of Education approve this settlement agreement between the Miamisburg City School District Board of Education and the Dayton Mall 3 LLC. Do I have a motion, please?
I'll move for the approval of settlement agreement between Miamisburg City School District Board of Education and Dayton Mall 3 LLC.
Second.
First, Mr. Lewis, second, Ms. Angel.
this was a complaint filed on behalf of the district for a sale because the sale price was far higher than the price that was on the auditor's website. And it's going to be a settlement for 2 tax years for fiscal year 18 and calendar year 18 and calendar year 19 for a total of $45,000.
Thank you. And it's nice to get that extra money.
It is.
I wouldn't call it extra money, needed money.
Needed money.
Needed
yes.
better. There we go.
Out there scraping revenue together.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Niess,
Yes.
Mrs. Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Amsler,
Yes.
Mr. Toadvine.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I just want to say thank you, Tina, for the hard work I know you've put into getting these settlements in place.
Thank you.
Most people don't want to pay us extra money.
It is recommended by the superintendent, treasurer, CFO, and the director of businesses that the district approve an addendum to the facility lease agreement with the Miami Valley Child Development Center. I have a motion.
I move for the approval of the facility use agreement addendum with Miami Valley Child Development Centers.
Second.
Okay, Ms. Niess is a first, Mr. Lewis is a second. Sagman?
I guess I'll discuss it since Scott's out. We already have a room that we lease to the Miami Valley Child Development Centers. They've expanded. They asked for a second room. First choice, of course, goes to Miamisburg students, so we thought this was a good partnership and wanted to continue with that. So we're asking the board to add this addendum to give them another room, to expand services, and provide Miamisburg students with another option.
Okay, and that location's at Medlerview,
It is, yes,
both rooms?
yes.
Okay, thank you. Questions?
No, sir.
Ms. Angel, you okay?
Yeah.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mrs. Angel,
Yes.
Mrs. Niess,
Yeah. Yes.
Mr. Amsler,
Yes.
Mr. Toadvine.
Yes. And item D is passed. It is recommended by the superintendent, elementary and secondary curriculum directors, and the student services director that the Miamisburg City School District approve the school PLP courseware agreement between the MCESC and the Miamisburg City Schools. Do I have a motion?
I'll move for the approval of school PLP courseware agreement between MCESC and the Miamisburg City Schools.
Second?
Are you seconding?
Yeah, I'm allowed to.
Okay, you are. I just wasn't sure if you were
Nobody
asking
said-
for a
nobody said
second,
anything, so-
or if you, I wasn't sure if you,
Chris.
Moving right along.
you are absolutely correct. You are allowed to, sir.
This is our online option for our families that do not want to return to school. Our online option for those families that would like to keep their students at home for the school year. So we've been working with them through the service center, the ESC, and of course we were able to get a lower rate because several schools went in together to get that pricing. So we did do some shopping, and this was the lowest bid that we received.
And I might add, if you don't mind, that if you did not get to hear basically what that meant from last night's meeting, it just simply means that the students that are going to be on there will be on for a semester.
That's what we'd like them to enroll for, yes. And then
Okay.
they can make a change at semester. So they get all their coursework, especially for the high school students for credit purposes. I mean, there could be some students that would flex in and flex out if it's just too hard or difficult for them, or maybe their family situation changes and they do need to return to school. Or if we go to yellow, maybe their families will even feel more safe allowing them to return. So
Yeah. And some other students may be too bright for it too. You're in Miamisburg now, so.
Right, there you go. They may need that teacher challenge,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Okay, thank you.
So is this number still flexing?
Yes, we do. I think I didn't get a talk with Stacy today. We had a few emails, but then people changed their mind even as the day went on. So I do think that as we get closer to school, we may have some families change their mind. But again, until we have to enroll them, we do have a little bit of flexibility. So.
Okay, thank you. Roll call, please.
Mr. Amsler,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes?
Mrs. Niess,
Yes.
Mrs. Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Toadvine.
Yes. Okay. Item E is passed. Item F, the superintendent recommends approval of the agreement with Kent State University to provide Kent State University candidates enrolled in the College of Education, Health, and Human Services teaching experience for its teacher candidates for the purposes of participating in field-based education experiences, including student teaching. May I have a motion?
I move for the approval of the agreement between Miamisburg City Schools and Kent State University.
And don't you guys make me second.
I second it.
You kind of jumped in there yourself. Don't blame
Hey,
us.
I waited and waited.
Point your finger down this way.
Mrs. Angel first, and a second by Mrs. Niess.
And
And
Steve, are we getting intern student teachers coming in? I have heard in other areas, not Ohio, not close to us, where students in classrooms are having a difficulty finding a student teacher placement.
Yes, we've partnered with several universities out there. We are still doing the programs with them. They have to follow all of our process and procedures that our staff does as well. They also have a UD, Wright State, Kent State, all of them actually have probably a little bit stringent from the college. They have to meet the college criteria, and then they have to meet our criteria as well to come and do that. So still a good experience for them, but they do have to follow all the same requirements that we do.
this is an experience for everybody, that's for sure. Man.
It is, so a lot of them will be, have the experience to do, and one of the things with universities are trying to do too is to give them an opportunity not only in classroom, but also online management and things like that too, so give them an opportunity for all of that, so.
Which is going to be more and more prevalent in the future, I'm sure. Colleges, look how they're doing it now.
And in most colleges, the students have to get COVID tests before they even return to campus. So I would think we'll have that safety net too, in terms of if we do have students that come onto our campus, we're going to know it's safe.
Thank you for that. Okay, roll call, please.
Mr. Toadvine,
Yes?
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Amsler,
Yes.
Mrs. Angel,
Yes.
Mrs. Niess.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for the second. Item G, it's recommended by the superintendent and director of student services to enter into an agreement with the GCL Education Services LLC. May I have a motion?
I move for the approval agreement with GC1 Education Services LLC, sorry.
Second.
Okay, we had a first from Mr. Amsler. We had a tie with Mrs. Angel.
Racing for it.
I thought he was going to say arm wrestle. Yeah, I know you'd beat him.
No, you would be doing that.
Okay.
This
we
is,
pick one?
yeah, this is a day treatment facility for one of our students, this agreement. We did have a student attending St. Rita's, and we're no longer having to provide that service. So it's kind of like one for the other in terms of financial.
Yeah, because we only had one student going to St. Rita's, right?
We have two.
We have two? Okay, so
Yeah.
we still are transporting one.
We
then.
are still
Okay.
transporting one.
Okay,
Correct.
okay, I just.
But we
wanted to
saved
clar-
the tuition cost.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Angel,
Yes.
Mrs. Neess,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Toadvine,
Yes.
Mr. Amsler.
Yes.
Okay. Next, we have the financial agenda items. Item A is, it is recommended by the Treasurer CFO that the appropriations in the Certificate of Estimated Resources are amended as listed in the attached reports. You can find the reports online or you can ask for them. Call Mrs. Hagman if anybody out there wants it.
That's fine.
That's what she did.
Please do.
Okay. Roll call. No, not roll call. Sorry.
That's okay.
Motion.
I move for the authorization for the amendment to the appropriations and certificate of estimated resources.
Second.
Okay, so we had a first from Mrs. Neess, second from Mr. Lewis. Mrs. Hageman.
That is a mouthful to say, just to say this is our estimate of revenues and our estimate of our budget. So, you know, we actually are receiving more grants this year than we have in previous years, and a lot of that has to do with the CARES initiative. You'll see that we have a 507, which is elementary, secondary, school emergency relief fund, or, you know, CARES money is what that is. It's over $1 million, 168,000 of that go to non-public schools, so our portion's about 904. So next month, as we move along, you'll start seeing my reports that show where those changes are occurring. This is the first month of July, so we don't really have that report for you, but we will have it for you beginning in August. So you'll see each change as they occur.
Mrs. Hageman, would you just elaborate just a tiny bit on what that money can be used for so that people...
It's for, what we are using the CARES money, first round of CARES money for, is for salaries and benefits for teachers to keep those teachers employed. Since we had the state likes to say 3.74% cut in our state funding, but it actually ended up being 6% of our actual state funding that we incurred last year. So we lost 968,000. We're going to get 904 to sort of offset some of the salaries. But you can use that for COVID-related expenses and to help offset the loss in your state funding, which we are doing. So
Okay, thank you.
we are still searching high and low for every grant we can get our hands on, and trying to get Wi-Fi hotspots, trying to get devices, trying to get anything we can for Miamisburg students. So as we are successful, want to remain positive, we can get more money in here to help with the COVID-related expenses that we have, because those are nearing over $500,000 at this point.
And thank you for putting that out there, that we are doing everything we can to get the devices now and
We
the
are.
hotspots and everything. That's important for people to know. Roll call.
Mrs. Neess,
Yes.
Mr. Amsler,
Yes.
Mr. Toadvine,
Yes.
Mrs. Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Okay, so the financial item A is passed.
Just one item this month.
I know, I'm sitting there looking at this thinking there's got to be something wrong with this piece of paper. Did you use invisible ink or what?
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
the first month of the fiscal year. Give me a chance.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's right. It's just there. Let's see here. Okay, next we're going to the acceptance of donations. It is recommended that the Board of Education accept the following list of donations. All monies will be used through each school's 018 account unless indicated otherwise. 300 medical grade masks valued at $600 from Hope for Miamisburg Church to the Miamisburg City School District. $500 from the Miamisburg Helping Hands to the Miamisburg City Schools Community Connections Program. And I might say that the Hope for Miamisburg is an organization that involves many of the churches in our area, and they are very active in trying to help the students of Miamisburg. Do I have a motion? Don't make me do
I
it.
move for acceptance of donation.
I second it.
Okay, we had a first from Mr. Amsler, a second from Mrs. Niess. Anyone like to comment?
I just want to say thank you for anybody who makes a donation.
Yeah.
to us. Thank you to any who make a donation to us.
Okay,
Absolutely.
okay. Roll call, please.
Mr. Amsler,
Yes.
Mrs. Niess,
Yes.
Mrs. Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Toadvine,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis.
Yes.
Okay, that item is passed. Moving on to the reports section. Dr. Blessing, do you have Mr. Ivakovich's report?
He did send that to us, didn't he? This morning?
Mhm.
Yeah, let me grab it.
Pull it up on mine if you want me to.
I've got it right here.
And on my Chromebook.
Okay, here we go. He said, "Good evening. Just a short report to bring you all up to date on activities at the MVCTC. We've had face-to-face meetings with junior students on August 13th and senior students on August 14th. These sessions were to distribute laptops and provide initial guidance for our online courses. Both days went extremely well with excited students and instructors. Exclamation point. We received excellent feedback on social media from both students and parents. Another exclamation point. On Monday, August 17th, we began online instruction for academic courses, career, technical programs, and electives. The online will continue through Friday, September 4th, and at this time, barring any new directives, we will begin a shared schedule on Tuesday, September 8th. Seniors will then attend on Mondays and Tuesdays for labs, and juniors will attend Thursdays and Fridays for labs. Wednesdays will be for online learning for both classes. The schedule will allow the CTC to offer in-person career technical coursework and ensure that students will complete academic requirements required for graduation. On a side note, during our meeting this morning, it was mentioned that welding would be very difficult to do online, so they need that in person. Fingers crossed that there are no other problems or directives that require changes. Let me know if you have any questions, and I will keep you posted on our progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ivakovich. Next is our legislative liaison, Mrs. Sharon Angel.
And I will say the legislature is, I would say vacation, but I think they're out campaigning to be reelected. But our governor did mandate in early August that all of our students, K-12, coming back to school would wear a mask. So that's the only thing that's been happening so far.
Thank you. Student Achievement Liaison, Mr. Chris Amsler.
Usually I do the students that are in schools, but since we haven't been in school yet, I do want to give a shout out to two different parties. And I think it's important, I think Dr. Blessing kind of mentioned it last night as well. We've had practice within regards to students being together, coaches being together in regards to our extracurricular activities, whether it be band, cheerleading, sports of all different magnitudes. I think a congratulations and a huge thank you not only to our coaching staff that has been adhering to all the policies and procedures, but as well as the students. I know we've been practicing at the high school since June, and I don't hear any complaints from any of the students as I'm walking down the hallway, whether it be from football kids, basketball kids, cheerleaders, soccer kids, tennis players. I think they've done a wonderful job of adhering to the policies and procedures at practice, and I just think that they should be given a shout out in regards to everything that they have done, not only the students but the coaches as well. So that's what I would say is the biggest achievement so far since June, so thank you for that.
Thank you, Mr. Amsler.
And that's a huge achievement.
Yes.
It is. I mean, no matter what sport you're in, no matter what you're doing, especially in the band of doing everything that they do in regards to that as well. And though we may have had some pimples, I call them every now and then, we've handled them professionally with minimal exposure, and we've been able to move on. So that just goes to show what we're doing is in the right direction.
Yeah, and I'd like to just mention Jason Osborne and Jason Shade's names for the hours and hours and hours and hours of meetings and just meetings with other schools, with the GWalk, with our coaches here, our athletes, our band people. It's just it's a big task going on right now, and they're taking it on head on. So thank you guys. Next, we're going to Mrs. Niess for the South Suburban Coalition of Drug-Free Action Alliance.
Our Montgomery County Drug-Free Coalition did not meet. We did not do a Zoom for August, but that was fine because I wanted to check in with Rusty Toadvine. He's the director of His Hope Mission, our Addiction Recovery Center in Miamisburg. Rusty had some data for me. Miamisburg had 5 fatal overdoses in 2019. Already at 7.5 months in 2020, we have 6. So that's not good. But Miami Township, on the other hand, had 10 in 2019 and is at 5 right now. So that's not as drastic. Also, His Hope provided 215 plus days of recovery housing. 50 plus people have been given resources to start their journey to recovery. And Dr. Blessing, this is just down on 4th Street in Miamisburg. It's in a church. It's also where we have the Hope for Miamisburg meetings. There's been 20 counseling sessions provided this year. 100% of the men in the ministry have become employed. And the support groups for women and men impacted by addiction have met 93 times this year. So just checking in with our local addiction recovery center, and they do a great job and very impressive work.
Thank you, Ann. I think I know that guy. Next is the district news and information from myself. And honestly, there's so much news and information going out. I hope that we covered a lot of it in our time together last night and a couple weeks ago, and the things that we went over this evening. I really don't have any direct district news other than what we've been covering, and that's a lot. Unless anybody would like to add anything to that at this time, we'll go around the table. Mr. Amsler?
All right. I was still thinking, Mr. Dale.
We can skip you tonight.
You know I like to talk. I would just like to say, very briefly though, I know you all have been in multiple meetings, including everybody that's been up here on the panel except for myself, and all these task force meetings, and Dale, I mean, you had mentioned Jason, and thank you for that, because I had kind of forgot. I didn't forget. That was just more on the kids and coaches, but you're exactly right. I just want to say, now that we have a direction that we're moving forward and we're starting school September 8th, I just want to say thank you to all the meetings that you guys have been in, the countless hours, the frustrations, the acknowledgments, the understandings. with the simple goal that if you look at it, this is a business just like anything else, and we're in the business to educate kids, and I think of no better place to educate kids than inside of a classroom. So I'm looking forward to the start of the school year. I know many people are looking for the start of the school year, and just talking with other individuals that work in other school districts. When it comes down to it, I think they wish they were here because of everything else that's going on in their school district that is going remote, or those types of complications that they're dealing with. So I'm glad of the decision that we've made, and I am looking forward to September 8th when the kids are back in the classroom. So with that, I will pass it on to Mr. Lewis.
That's another reason why Miamisburg's a great place to be.
Yes, sir.
I just have a couple things. First off, I wanted to give a big thank you to all of our secretaries in all of our buildings who have been working, frontline people throughout the last few weeks. They will be the smiling faces that the students see when they come in, the teachers see when they come in. I learned, and I'm not going to say when, many years ago when I first started teaching, and this is not any slam on any administrator, but I learned real quick who ran the buildings. And so I just really want to thank the secretaries for everything they do. I might get a hot dinner tonight. Also, welcome to all of our new hires. And glad you're here. Hopefully we will be able to get around and meet every new face. And also wanted to say thank you to our community, our parents, our students, certified, classified, everyone involved with Miamisburg City Schools, one way or another, for hanging with us. This has not been easy. We have studied, we have discussed, we have talked to many, many people trying to make the right decision. I feel like we have. Now it's just up to everybody to get it started and keep it going and stay healthy and be off to a great new year.
Niess?
I just, I didn't get a chance to say that, welcome to Dr. Blessing. It's been a joy to have you so far, and I know that will continue. Just once again, too, I know we mentioned people on the task force last night, and I just really wanted to thank the teachers that used their, they came in during the summer because they're so committed to our community. Our classified staff, the athletic department. It was a good, like Steve said, it was a good collaboration. And I was really, another thing too was today I received a text. It was just pretty delightful that from a teacher saying that she's very excited to come back, and that just made my day.
Okay. There's a lot of people to thank right now for the endless hours and time that's been put in. I would especially like to thank Steve Homan for being the soldier that he has been, and I mean, you've went through so many battles. You got to have battle scars all over, I'm sure, from probably your wife beating you for not being home and everything else. But I'm so proud, Steve, to have you as an assistant superintendent at Miamisburg, and you're one of the most dedicated people I've ever met in my life, and I'd like to thank you for everything you do for the school district.
Yes, ditto.
As far as the task force people, there was a lot of time put into the operational task force with the classified people, and we had the academic with the certified people, and the union heads were involved with most of the things, the decision-making processes that took place. I especially would like to thank the parents for their time that they spent with the surveys. We sent out 2 surveys. The purpose, I think, was misinterpreted for the second one, but it was, simply to get an idea as to the directions that we could go if there was changes in the environment as far as the COVID. I think that we're set now. We have 3 different models that are in place, and they're there to keep our staff and our students safe. And we think that we're doing that with what we're doing and the things that we have in place. So I would really especially like to thank the people who've been involved with that. The classified people, you're out there working your tails off, making sure that our buildings are going to be ready for when our students come, and then that's just the beginning of the hard work that you're going to have to put forward out there to make sure that our kids are safe, and I'm already thanking you for that. Dr. Blessing, you've already been a blessing. I've had the pleasure of being in a lot of meetings with you. Your spunk and energy just amazes me, and I thank you for that. You've already accomplished a lot, and I am so looking forward to being part of your team. So, thank you for everything that you've done. If I left anybody out, I apologize, but Tina, Ms. Hagman, you and I have spent a lot of time talking and stuff over things now too, and there's a lot of money questions out there that in all my years in education, I fortunately haven't had to be part of, and I know you haven't either, and we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. But thank you also for the sleepless nights that you've had sitting there thinking about how to figure things out. So thank you for that, and what you're doing with the devices and hotspots and the grants and stuff. That's huge. Thank you, Mrs. Angel.
Can I say just ditto? I mean, you all have said everything I'm feeling about this. I just want to say, next week our teachers come back. This will be the first time in 46 years I have not been at an opening day. So opening day is going to be different, but I want the entire staff to know that we all welcome them back. We all appreciate what they're going through, what they're doing. And I would just ask that our staff, our parents, our administrators, all have empathy and be kind, because we are going to go through lots of frustration. We're going to hit stumbling blocks, but we have to take care of each other, and I know we will. Thank you.
So I guess your first Teacher's Day was the year I was born.
Probably.
Yeah.
I'm older than him.
I had to lighten it up a little bit.
Yes,
Thank
you
you.
did.
Go ahead.
I am old. We'll
Well,
say
so am
that.
I, you know that. Chris was one of my students, so that tells you.
Yes, I was.
I was not one of your students.
Well, you could have been. Miss Hagman?
Well, I would echo everyone's comments. I've been on a lot of task force meetings in the last few months, more so than I think I've ever been in my life. We've learned a lot, and I have to say I have to commend Miamisburg staff. They've raised the bar, and I think we've reached it. I'm confident that everyone that was in the task force can meet any challenge as well as any staff that we have. So I'm just thankful to be working with them, and hopefully we can get all the funds that we need to move forward and provide a safe and caring environment for our kids to come back to, and for our staff. So it's going to be a different year, but I'm sure we can meet that challenge with no problem.
Mr. Homan?
Just ditto to what everyone else said. Couple things just to keep in mind. On the website, if you're watching from home, if you go to our main page and you click on the graphic below it, it's going to take you to what's called our stay in school plan as we look at it. And this is updated constantly with FAQs, things from public health. I think Dr. Blessing's going to be talking about some building plans coming out, and those will all be on there. So for parents out there wanting to know what the latest news, information, all those things, those are in here as well. Also, as a reminder, school starts up. Whether if you're online or in person, a reminder, any information, email addresses, telephone numbers, those are very important to keep updated in the system. As you know, our One Call Now comes over the your phone, but also remember this year we've started the texting as well and the email messages with that. So it is very important to keep those up to date, and all those messages are online as well. And also as a reminder, we start September 8th, but also just as a little reminder too, September 11th, that Friday there, it is a PD day, and it is a day in which we're going to reflect, review, revamp. I know those aren't the words that were on the plan, but I can't think of it, but it sounds good. But it's a day, all of our staff comes together, classified, certificated, to take a look at those first few days to understand, like Sharon was saying, gosh, there's going to be some bumps and roads and maybe some frustrations, but that's important for our staff to come together and to look to see what we can improve upon that. And I would also encourage students and parents out there, if you think there's something that maybe we've overlooked, or from the outside, a person looking in from the outside that says, what about this, or did you think about this? Please share that with us. Please email that with us, because our goal is to stay in school, and if we can do something better to get the kids to stay in school or functions and all that, we'd love to do that. So, and welcome Dr. Blessing, little baptism by fire, coming in and hitting the ground running. But Dr. Blessing's been a great addition.
Yeah.
Meetings after meetings after meetings, very open, great communicator, and all that. So we are very lucky to have you, and welcome.
Thank you. I feel very lucky to be here. I've got a few 3 points I want to make, because I know everyone's ready to go home. We've been together quite often, right? Last day. So, I want to echo what Chris said about our sports. I was able to make it to a tennis match this afternoon before the meeting, and it was great to see our girls tennis players, a few of them, because they had some matches earlier in the day. Also, I saw a glimpse of soccer practice and football practice, so lots of great student athletes out there, and that's what school is all about, and that's why we're here. So it was just really exciting to see that, and meet the tennis coaches, and talk to some Miamisburg folks. So a very, very fun afternoon, beautiful day. So and then tomorrow there will be a one call, so those of us tuning in Google Meet, but it's just reminding everyone that we're updating the website, and we will have all of our building return to school plans, so our families can start prepping our students about different policies and procedures that they're going to encounter on that first day of school. And there also, a lot of the buildings are doing some virtual open houses and freshman orientation, so a lot of that information will be included. And that'll take place the second week of our teacher return, so that first week in September. Because the next thing I want to touch on is tomorrow is really the last official day of summer for all of us who work year-round and in the offices, because on Monday, all of our certified staff return, and even our classified staff at the end of the week. So it's kind of an interesting day tomorrow, but we all love summer, but we all are very excited that we have a school year to look forward to. So we thank you for your support of that. And we have a lot of topics that our teachers and our classified staff are going to be doing next week. We are having an opening day. As Sharon alluded to, it's just going to be virtual. So we will have some featured speakers, Mr. Toadvine and Mr. Curry. Myself are going to say a few words, and people are going to view them through Google Meets and different platforms. We're going to have a lot of Google Classroom training for all of our different levels. Even for the classified, for the second week, they're going to see some of that and learn how to help their teachers that they work with navigate that. We have a great SEL day planned next Friday, and that's been in the works for a while, so there'll be a lot of different topics. Our classified staff are going to be attending that as well. So that's kind of a snapshot of week 1. Then week 2, we'll be moving into more of the building meetings and the grade level meetings and planning for the start of school. And then also if there is any contingencies in terms of how Google Classroom can work if we had to pivot due to an outbreak or something like that. So it's going to be a busy 10 days for our staff and probably for us as well, but it's well worth it. So we're very looking forward, and I as well, to getting in and seeing all the buildings and great staff in action. So thank you. It's been a great 14 days now, officially on the job. And I appreciate all of the generous welcome and generosity and kindness to my family and myself, because it's been wonderful. So thank you.
Okay. I have a motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
I second it.
Okay, and a first from Mrs. Angel, second from Mrs. Niess. Anybody say they don't want to adjourn?
No, sir.
Okay, roll call.
Mrs. Angel,
Yes.
Mr. Toadvine,
Yes.
Mrs. Neese,
Yes.
Mr. Lewis,
Yes.
Mr. Amsler,
Yes.
Okay, we are officially adjourned at
7:17.
7:17.